when you start in any new software, there's things that you have to overcome, new hotkeys, learned muscle memory from a previous software that you've been using for years, and just the overall interface itself may feel a little bit alien. So my goal here for this particular video is to focus on trying to give you a few additional things that will make things feel a little bit more comfortable without necessarily sacrificing many of the existing hotkeys that will be in there, so that you can gradually make the transition over by learning those new hotkeys without having to have lost everything that you previously experienced. Another reason why you want to keep those original hotkeys around is if anybody has to come and make use of your station, say when someone's coming to sit down to give you some advice or help on something, they will have those hotkeys available to them if they are a long-standing Maya user. So you'll see here I've got a number of different maps pinned out here. These are the keys if you were just press them straight out without pressing any of the modifier keys. And here if I held down Shift, the tan ones are the ones that are currently free, not being currently used, and the blue ones are the ones that are currently being used. And then again for Control, for Alt, Control Shift, etc. And of course things like Control Shift Alt, which is completely barren because really, I mean, it's a bit of a contortion act. So I do have this one here that says it's unusable. That's not entirely true. It just gives kind of like a quirky little error in the current version. But it is usable. You can actually assign a hotkey to it. So the purple ones are reused. This guy right here, the purple guy is a repeated version of undo, which is actually Control Z. And so you can map that, and we'll map that one up ourselves. Then we have these guys, which are actually snap tools, which again are already available here. So really you can remap a lot of this. There's a lot of available real estate, and especially if you use the right hand side of the keyboard, which is not used a lot. And consider that you can press this Alt versus this Alt and be able to use this with your left hand quite easily. So let's have a look at some of those. So let's go into the first feature I'd like to go over, which is the toolbars up here. There's a number of them that already exist. They've got various different tools existing within them, and little icons you can look at. Some of them may make sense when you look at them. Others you have to hover over to try and get tooltips and figure out what they are. We also have this custom tab where you can go and drop your own. So if I went into create something, ambient light or something like that, Control Shift, left click, and drop them to that bar. And anything that I don't like on any given bar, I can middle mouse button, drag and drop to the trash, and of course they'll go away. Now visually, some of these things make sense, like I said. You hover over them, you can find out what they are, but it would be nice to have these show up in a way similar to what you have in Softimage, because ultimately when you start making these tools via Mel or Python, what ends up happening is blah 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 blah, say script to shelf, and you say this is really cool, and what you have is this is, and then, well, that's as many letters as you're going to get. So let me just drag and drop that to the trash. So I'd like something to allow me to see more of those features, more of what I've written. And that is here in this shelf editor, options, and I can do icons with text below. I can do icons with text beside, which I find more readable overall. And that's basically it. It's a little bit more similar to what you're accustomed to inside of Softimage, where you can see the button shape. It's usually rectangular, and you'll have that there. You can do text only, but as you can see, it's not necessarily very clear unless you were to put that in the name of the tool, where you went ahead and put maybe lines or asterisks or something like that to give you some kind of visual separation between them, where you could be able to tell from one button to the next, because there's no highlighting of the text really either. You're just kind of hovering over it, and either it is or it isn't. So my suggestion, of course, is really this one, if you feel that that is more comfortable. The next thing that you're going to want to turn on is weighted tangents. By default in Softimage, you'll have weighted tangents turned on. And in Maya, the default is not on. So if we go this little button down here next to the key, will bring up your preferences. You go to animation and then click on weighted tangents to make sure that they will be weighted. So let's add a few keys to this. I'm just going to press my S key, move the timeline, move it. We get ourselves a quick little animation. And we go to our graph editor here, just this guy right here, and select any kind of key. And we've got this, and of course we have the ability to go ahead and free the tangent weights because they are now weighted, and to unify the weight. Then we also have this breaking of the weights to be able to go ahead and change these guys and unify them. And that, inside of Softimage, you would be pressing O to do. Now if I look down at my keyboard, I hold down the right Alt and then O, you notice that's a really easy button to press, easy to access. So we're going to make use of that in order to do this. Now the thing is, while this feature does exist with the potential of making a hotkey, it doesn't exist as a toggle feature. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to create a toggle feature for this using a little bit of mel. Now don't freak out, it's just a tiny little bit. We've got just int for an integer, which is going to be a value that we're going to put in. We establish a value by going ahead and putting in this right here. I just typed tan for tangent, but you could call this anything that you want. And then we say that it equals, and we were looking for the value, its current tangent value, its lock value, whether or not it's locked or unlocked. Once we have that information, it gets stored in this, and we reuse it again right here. And what we do is we do the command key tangent lock, and then we give it a value, and that value is usually 0 or 1 or on and off, etc. And what we're saying here is not that value. So basically, whatever it is, if it's on, then it's not on, and if it's off, then it's not off. So that's what we're going to be using. So I'm just going to copy that. Go to Windows, Settings and Preferences, Hotkey Editor. I scroll down here to User, where it's basically set up, ready for you to add new features. I'm going to say toggle underscore handle, and we can give a description for it. Equals breaking and unifying handles. Paste in our little bit of mel and accept that. Once it's accepted, we can assign a hotkey to it. So I'm going to press Alt-O. So you just click Alt and O, and there it is. You can query that, it's not assigned to anything, and we can assign that. And now, if I go ahead and close that, and I press Alt-O, you notice it toggles between the two features. So there we go, we've got it. Our first little hotkey makes us a little bit more comfortable, more similar to what we have in Softimage. So let's set up a few more. So the next feature I want to bring up is, of course, the outliner. So the outliner tells you what's in your scene, whether or not they're hidden objects or visible. And of course, if you turn on shapes and other attributes and stuff like that, you can get even more information similar to what you would have inside the Explorer. Not exactly the same, but similar. So if I go ahead under here and I say outliner, it brings up one, but it removes it from this panel. I'm not getting multiples here, which is, a bit upsetting. So I want to be able to have duplicates. So normally what we would do is go ahead and do a tear off copy. Tear off copy will give me that. However, when I pick from here, outliner, it tears it off and removes it from wherever it is. So I want the tear off copy feature where I can go ahead and tear off copy, etc. And that's a feature that I want to use. Now, again, this would be a little bit of mel scripting in order to make this function. I'm just going to show you this if you want to have that feature. I'm just going to go ahead and clear all. And there's an option called Echo All Commands, which you can use to bring up pretty much any of the mail commands that are existing within inside of Maya to do anything. Because normally speaking, if I go ahead and do panel tear off copy, nothing shows up as a command here. So I want to go ahead and say Echo All Commands. I'm going to go to Panels, and you see already things are starting to pop up. And then I go down to tear off copy. I'm just going to turn off the Echo All Commands. We're going to look for something that says tear off copy. So there it is, tear off copy, outliner panel 1, outliner panel 1. Just middle mouse button, drag and drop that. And we can use that as our command. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that. Go back up to my wonderful settings and preferences, Hotkey Editor, back down to users, create another new one, outliner copy, paste that in there and accept it. And then we'll go ahead and press 8, which in 2015 shouldn't be bounded to anything. If you're in 2014 or earlier, it will be bound to the Paint panel, but it's no longer a hotkey assignment in 2015. So let's go ahead and assign that. And I will press 8. And there's 1. And I press 8 again. 2, 3. So you get multiple copies with that. Now I have a few other windows here, various different ones: Visor, the Create Node Editor, Hypershade, Node Editor, Texture Editor, Expression Editor, etc., which are all found primarily here. We've got the Node Editor, Create Node. We've got the Visor here, and of course pressing 5 or Alt 5, I think I put there, would bring up a series of examples and assets similar to what you would be experiencing when you're pressing 5 inside of Softimage. Now these all exist here. Hotkey, down to window, and you'll see all of them are of course available here. So let me just quickly go through a few of these. So the Create Node Editor allows you to create nodes, which can be used in conjunction with the Node Editor itself. Now in the Node Editor you don't need to have this, similar to other features like Nuke, etc. You can just hit Tab and you start writing here. We'll go multiply, divide, and I get a node. There we go, node. Or I could go in here and find something and click, and of course then I still get the nodes. So just like you would have for the render tree or ICE, etc., same kind of general idea for this interface. Let's close those. We also have the Hypershade, Rendering Editor's Hypershade, which is supposed to be similar to your same kind of functionality here. It contains a listing of all your textures, if you have any textures, various utilities currently being used, renders, and other things that you've done here, your lights, your cameras, just basically scene organization information, which is really useful here. And of course the working area, which is fairly similar to our Node Editor there. It's just visually different. And of course the Create Node feature is attached to this already. UV Texture Editor. So we have all that. Working region here. We have the Expression Editor. expression editor to create expressions. We have the script editor. And the graph editor. Which is your F-curve editor. Another version of that can be found right here from one of the preset setups to your animation. And then, of course, the tracks editor, which is pretty much your animation mixer. So you'll see that I've set them up to similar hotkeys to those kind of things, and you can set anything else up you want along those lines.